I'd like to welcome all of you to our Big C meeting in January. I'd also like to thank Reddington Shores for hosting today for us. And with this, we're going to all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. You may be seated. We'll start with roll call. One of my favorites, Mayor Queen.
Asa Hendrickson, Mayor, Reddington Shores.
Pedro Petrillo, Mayor, City Beach.
John Doctor, Commissioner, Treasure Island.
Jim Rostak, Mayor, Madeira Beach.
David Will, Mayor, Reddington Beach.
Cookie Kennedy, Mayor of Indian Rocks Beach.
Mayor, I thought I was your favorite mayor.
Well, you're also.
That's right, Mayor Indian Shore.
Dave Gaddis, Mayor of Bel Air Beach.
Kathleen Beckman, Clearwater City Council.
Would you go out into the audience so that everyone can introduce themselves?
Absolutely. I'm Robin Gomez, City Madeira Beach City Manager, and I'll pass, please use the microphone to state your name and organization, please.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Adam Ross. I'm the Executive Director for your State Attorney, Bruce Bartlett, and I'm also running for Tax Collector.
Good morning. I'm Diantha Shear, Vice Mayor of Indian Shores.
Hello, everyone. Helen Roldan with Ballyhoo Media.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Malcolm Summers. I'm also with Ballyhoo Media.
Lauren Kornichuk, City Clerk of Indian Rocks Beach.
Randy Mora, Trustino Law Firm.
Good morning, everybody. Gina Johnson, Waterfront Realty.
Tim Johnson, Waterfront Realty, Tampa Bay Beaches Board of Directors.
Good morning. I'm Anne Marie Brooks, Commissioner, Madeira Beach, District 4.
Robin Miller, Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber.
Good morning. Amy Tugoff from Sandkey Realty, but here on behalf of the Sandkey Civic Association.
Thank you. Christy Herrig, Citizen, Reddington Shores.
Good morning. CJ Hoyt, Commissioner, Town of Reddington Shores.
Mike McLaughlin, Town Administrator, Reddington Shores.
Jolie Patterson, Deputy Clerk, Reddington Shores.
Jeff Rosenfield, Tampa Bay Newspapers.
Michelle Cognetti, Tom George Businesses, Hurricane Eddies.
Bob Schmidt, retired Mayor of Bel Air Shore.
Good morning, Mark Grill, resident, St. Pete Beach.
Good morning, Chiquita Clark, Duke Energy.
Good morning, everyone. Eddie McGeehan, City Commissioner of District 3 here in Madeira Beach.
Christopher Hollins, Citizen, Paso Grove.
Fred Irwin, also with the Sandkey Civic Association, and greetings to Amy.
Good morning, Jeffrey Davidson, Fire Chief for Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District.
Good morning, Ray Kerr, Vice Mayor, Madeira Beach.
Good morning. Sam Jenkins, SPC's Institute for Strategic Policy Solutions.
Hey, good morning. Vince Nowicki, candidate for County Commission District 3.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will have our swearing in for the new officers for the Big C. Come with me.
Start with the chair and then, or thank you. Start with the president and then do the vice president. So thanks. Sorry, this is on. No, I'm good. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Joanne Cookie Kennedy,
Do solemnly affirm
do
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Florida
and the Constitution of the State of Florida
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and the allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter,
the duties upon which I'm about to enter,
and that I do further affirm
and that I do further affirm
that I will serve
that I will serve
the Barrier Islands Governing Council
the Barrier Islands Governmental Council
as president
as president
to my best ability
to my best ability
and will strive to further its goals.
and to strive to further its goals.
Congratulations, Madam President.
Thank you.
And just so I'm clear, I want to make sure, what is your title going to be, so I say it right? Vice President. Just wanted to make sure.
Yes, of course.
Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, David Will,
Do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Florida
and the Constitution of the State of Florida
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same,
to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter,
the duties upon which I am about to enter,
and that I do further affirm
and I do further affirm
that I will serve the Barrier Islands Governmental Council
that I will serve the Barrier Islands Governmental Council
as Vice President
as Vice President
to my best ability
to my best ability
and will strive to further its goals.
and will strive to further its goals.
Congratulations, Mr. Vice President.
Jeff, you want
Yeah, I think it would be great.
Okay. So at this time, what we will do is we'll have to form a committee because as we have moved up in positions here, we now have to form a committee of 3 that will make a decision on appointing another member to be our secretary treasurer
They'll make a recommendation to the,
to the board.
To the
And then
board.
we'll
right,
vote on it.
right. I volunteer for the committee.
And then one more, Dave. So Lauren, for this, you'll put down that Dave Gaddis, Mayor Pat Serrano, and Mayor Bill Queen will be the 3 on the committee to nominate a person to be the secretary treasurer, and we'll
Next
vote
meeting.
on that next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Move to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
At this time, I'd like the approval of the November and December 2023 Treasurer Report, which our Vice President will do this time.
Yes. We have 2 reports since we didn't have a November meeting. So our opening balance, November 1st, was $1,234.08. We had 1 disbursement to Digital Eel for $266.57. bringing our total to $967.51. Our opening balance as of December 1st was $967.51. We had no disbursements and no deposits, so our current balance is $967.51.
Thank you. Is there a move to approve?
Move to approve.
Mayor Queen with the first and Mayor Gaddis with the second. Okay. Correspondence. We had in our packet a letter and from Lindsay Cross, and I did reach out to her and just asked her, and I'm just going to read this real quick to you because I haven't even read it myself, about the House Memorial Shoreline Protection Bill that she has put forward with the federal government. It says, "We are working hard to get the memorial heard in Infrastructure Strategies Committee next week, and I will attend the March meeting." And that was what she wanted us to know. So hopefully she'll be able to give us a update on the House Memorial. With that, is there any other correspondence that anyone would like to talk about today that we've had in our packet? Anyone? Yes.
I would just say that it's Representative Burfield also with Lindsay Cross, so it's nice to have bipartisan
Okay, yes.
appeal
And
for that.
I'll reach out to Kim and see if she'd like to come too and talk to us. New business. Guest speaker Helen Ralden from Ballyhoo Media and Kyra Everett. But that's not you. No, you're not. What? Introduce yourself first.
Once again, my name is Malcolm. I'm also tagging along with Helen today. I'm the Vice President of Sales with Ballyhoo Media.
Okay.
And we're excited to share with you a little bit about who we are and what we do.
Perfect. Okay.
Hello, my name is Helen. It's a pleasure to be here, Mayor, Vice Mayors, Commissioners, and distinguished guests. We're here today to talk a little bit about who we are and the different community programs that we offer. So a little bit about us. We are predominantly an advertising and events company. You may have seen us passing by in the beach or at previous events in the community. And today we'd really like to just introduce ourselves and so you all know a little bit about who we are and what we do. So who is Ballyhoo Media? We are, like I said, we're predominantly an advertising company. We are a minority Jewish-owned business. 30% of our workforce are veteran hires. About 30% are minority members. We have a track record of generating, local economic development in the communities that we serve and working with small businesses to make sure that they're able to advertise at fair rates in their community. And we constantly offer different programs like grant initiatives for members of the community. So we are water enthusiasts. It all started with the water. We were founded out of our love for the water and our waterways and the people surrounding them. Our company is a multimedia company where we really try to make memorable experiences for brands, our community partners, in a memorable way with the public. We have a very unique platform, and so we use that to our advantage. But we're more than just an ad. We promote creativity, connection, and community. So I'll be talking a little bit more about that today. We are the only billboard committed to protecting our waterways. That's something that I'm so passionate about, and I'm happy to share the different programs that we offer and that we do. 10% for the water is the first program that we started, and so for all of our advertising space, 10% is always dedicated to environmental groups, nonprofits, but also to municipal partnerships and other members of the public that need to get a message out to the community. Through the 10% for the water program, we created 3 different programs that we realize go beyond just that messaging capability that we're able to offer. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those, but they are the Blue Beacon program, the SEA program, and our REEF program. So a little bit about the SEA program. It's our Coastal Communication Collective, and that's predominantly what I want to focus on today, this being the Big C and the Barrier Islands community. I've spoken to some of your colleagues about, shared issues that exist with the coastal communities. And so we offer a platform that's able to spread messaging across the coast that makes sense to residents. In the past, we've worked with different elected officials, different municipal partnerships. Here we have two examples, one in Fort Lauderdale. The mayor of Fort Lauderdale welcomed folks over to the International Boat Show. On the right, we worked with the state attorney's office in South Florida to promote a anti-sex trafficking campaign. So it was a big launch, and we helped promote that launch when it occurred. A little bit, we know that one of the local issues is the beach nourishment, protecting and getting messaging out about sand dunes. So we have a little mock-up about what an ad like that could look like. But in terms of local partnerships on the right, it's a little unclear, but you'll see we've worked with different partners here already, like the National Foundation for Pediatric Cancer. So partnering with them and their Halloween parade, their annual Halloween parade, something that we've done for a couple of years now, and we're very thankful to get their mission out to the community. A little bit about our REEF program. So REEF stands for Recreation Events and Engagement for All. And so what we like to say is our advertising dollars, they help subsidize a lot of the cool programs that we do for the communities. We try to make community events very, free to the public for the most part. So on the left-hand side, you'll see a scavenger hunt that we did with a local newspaper. And that's something that got the community out. They looked at different clues on the screens, and it's just a fun way to get community engagement, fun day in the community. On the right, you'll see we did a series of football watch parties at Buoys in Tampa Bay. And so that was a fun program where we aired, Thursday night football for the entire season last year. And then our Blue Beacon program, this is something I'm very passionate about. Something that we're launching in just a short few weeks is our clean water testing program. So with our clean water testing program, we're going to be out in areas that the state and local governments don't necessarily reach right now. Something that we realize is there is a gap in testing when it comes to water monitoring. So we have a very unique platform. It's mobile. We're able to get to areas that people do recreate in, jet skis and different sandbars. And we're able to test and see, is the water healthy there, and report that message back to the community. So we're going to be partnering right now with Miami Waterkeepers for a pilot program, and that's going to be starting in the next few weeks. We also promote Tampa Bay Watch, so their oyster reef ball program up here. That's something that we share in our screens, and it's something that some of my colleagues have gone out and helped with the oyster reef ball program. And the big initiative that we recently launched yesterday with the University of South Florida, we launched our seabed expansion up here in the Tampa Bay beaches area. So every day that our boat is going out and showing, advertising images, we're actually also, we're tracking the shorelines. We're tracking the areas that we're operating in with technology that they've installed on our boats. And so what that does is it reports back to climate scientists. It's part of a United Nations initiative throughout the world. And basically it helps not just with updating navigational maps. I learned yesterday with the USF scientist team that maps apparently in the area haven't been updated since around the 1800s. So they're working on, basically updating the information for navigational, partners and folks out in the water, but we're also collecting information on the seabed. So as erosion happens, as things change in terms of climate, temperature, salinity in the water, we're monitoring those changes and reporting it back so that the USF team can have that information and use it to inform policymakers like yourselves. So that's something that we're very passionate about. We already started the program last year, but yesterday we launched it up here in the Tampa Bay beaches area. And with that, we're dedicated to the community, social responsibility, press relations, government. That's why I'm here today. And again, we think that Ballyhoo is a great fit for the Barrier Islands. I mentioned this mock-up that we created to promote public service messaging, for instance, like the sand dune issue for beach nourishment. Community announcements, Clearwater Main Library is open now, so that's just a sample of something that can go up on the screens. We have done different public service announcements, emergency messaging, so when hurricanes come, when there's like a main alert that needs to go out, that's something that we also do, and this is all in kind. It's just part of our community program that we're offering and that we offer continuously. Here, I come from a local government background. I love community engagement, so let folks know that there's a city commission coming up. So that's a mock-up of that. And then lastly, something that we're constantly doing every quarter as a company, we go out and we do waterway cleanup. So anytime you guys want to partner with us, we have folks that are ready to go out. And with that, one more thing I wanted to bring up. On the sales side, we do try to work with local businesses to offer affordable programs that work with them and their budgets so that they can advertise to tourists, to local residents, and really make sure that they're also able to, to be on billboards and to promote their companies. And really with that, it's just all about stimulating the local economy. So this is one of the clients that we've worked with up here. Different ways to use us. We're here at your service. We also offer movie screenings. We have digital screens. The capabilities are endless, but like I mentioned, we offer emergency alerts, community messaging, even art, music, and culture. We've done art shows on our floating screens. So if any of that is of interest to you, let's make waves. I'm happy to answer any questions, but like I said before, with this group being the Big C, there's a lot of different messaging that makes sense for you all to come together. And if there's something that makes sense in terms of, coastal communities that you'd like to reach the public on, we're happy to help, with our inventory, help put some messaging on the screen and work with you all to make sure that your messaging is getting to folks. So with that, thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation to have us here today.
Does anybody have any questions? Any questions from?
Do you go intercoastal and Gulf side?
We go on the intercoastal and on the beach side.
Do you do the fingers on the intercoastal side?
I don't believe so. No.
So
No,
just
no.
the main coastal, intercoastal?
Yes. We have the ability to go in, but that's not where we operate. Yeah.
Anyone else? Any questions?
I do. Helen, can you just clarify for me the in-kind services that you offer to municipalities? That would be for educational purposes to the residents, visitors?
Correct. So we, like I said, 10% of our space is reserved for community messaging. And so that's part of our in-kind program that we offer year-round. Basically, the way that our loop structure works is we get a request come in. We have a couple of allotted spaces that we give out to cities, to nonprofits, municipal partners, et cetera. And that's just part of our in-kind program. So we can work with teams to develop the ad ourselves. In-house, we provide that, or your teams can send over different messaging, and then we can put it on our screens. And that's just a service that we offer as part of our 10% for the community. Yeah.
Might be a great opportunity with turtle season, coming into turtle season.
Yes.
I'm with Clearwater Aquarium. I'm their rescue manager. So I was actually going to see if I could bend your ear for a few minutes.
Oh,
and see
absolutely.
what idea that you could.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can speak afterwards as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Mark Brill. I'm a resident of St. Pete Beach, but for the record, I was a commissioner and vice mayor in St. Pete Beach until December. So my question is how you balance the advertising versus the environment that we want for our barrier islands in this community. I will say that when I was in office, I had received complaints about these billboards. They don't fit, in my view. They don't fit with the barrier islands. They may be good in Miami and Fort Lauderdale, but they're really not what the barrier islands are all about. So I would, to the Big C, and I know we don't have, as municipalities, we don't have jurisdiction on what goes on at a certain feet in the water, but it really sends the wrong vibe. I do applaud the work you do and the environmental work and the community development work, but it's really not what this area is all about. And I just leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I think this is a very good thing, and I haven't heard any complaints on it at all.
Do you have any cards with you in case any of the cities or?
Yeah, absolutely. I can
Give
share
one of us a
information.
card, just so.
Yeah.
Cookie, I had a question. Yes. I appreciate your presentation. I think you guys are doing some really interesting things. I was interested a little bit about your Blue Beacon program, the clean water testing, and then working with USF for seabed expansion. So that's fantastic. I've seen some of these floating billboards out on the reef off of Sand Key, and I'm wondering, and Mayor Queen asked the question about, are you in the bay as well as out on the Gulf, and you can be both?
We can be. We stick, and Malcolm may be able to speak a little bit more about our routes, but we predominantly are operating on the beach side. Yeah.
Yeah, so our motto is if there's a body of water, chances are we can get to it, right? So although we have our daily routes that we stick to, from a operational perspective, if there's an area that you would like to explore having the boat provide coverage for, we can absolutely look into it, have a conversation with the operations team, understand the logistics that it would take to provide coverage there, and formulate a plan that makes sense for you.
Okay. And to add to that, I mean, we always work with, regulating body authorities, making sure that anywhere that we're operating is somewhere that we're allowed to operate in. We definitely don't want to ruffle feathers, so we try to avoid being in waterfront homes. That's not something that we're interested in doing. More so on that beach side, on the, tourists, residents that live over there. But we have done events. Actually at St. Pete Beach, we did a couple of movie nights. So things like that, we do make ourselves available for different community programs.
Okay. I was just thinking the seabeds are a little more on the bay side than the Gulf, as far as your distance from the beach.
Right.
So, all good. Thank you.
Thank you. One more question, and then you.
Yes.
Having lived out here on the islands for more than 40 years, there's nothing that aggravates me more than when I see a mat of seagrass floating. Do you know of anyone? I mean, that's kind of the basis to the seabeds. And do you know of anyone who's putting out the message to stay away from the seagrass beds?
That's a great idea to put up on the screens, actually.
Okay.
I know we've worked with Tampa Bay Watch to promote some of their messaging. That's not one that they've shared with us, but I can always reach out to them if that's something that makes sense. And now that we're partnered with USF, our goal is to promote some of the different work that their marine science team is working on and the different, messages that are important to their work to get out to the community.
Mayor?
Yes, I can see that there are some positive aspects to this, and I know Mayor Queen, you had mentioned you haven't received any complaints, but to Mr. Grill's point, how many boats do you have and how many other operators are out there? I mean, the potential for, this being a train of billboards
Right.
cruising up and down the beach, I think is what the concern might be.
So we operate one boat at a time up here. We do have 2 boats in the area, but we operate at 1 boat. Yeah. To my knowledge, we're the only operators in the state of Florida. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all. And we'll be here. We have our business card, so if anyone wants to reach out. Thank you again. It was a pleasure to speak with you this morning.
Thank you. At this time, under old business, I'd like our city manager in Indian Rocks Beach, as well as several of the cities, Randy Moore, to come up. I've asked him to kind of go over Senate Bill 280 and the House Bill, its companion, 1537, to kind of clarify some things about that bill for us. Thank you, Randy, for taking the time to come on such short notice.
Thank you, Madam President, as it were, Madam Mayor. Thank you, mayors. Just for correction in the record, I do not want the promotion or change in career to city manager. I am a city attorney. I like the seat I'm in. I get to say that's a tough call and it's somebody else's. So thank you all the same for the compliment, Cookie. With that, I'm here to speak to you on most particularly the current legislative session, but as it relates most particularly, I was asked to speak to the proposed legislation on short-term rentals. There is a Senate Bill 280, and a House Bill 1537. The Senate bill had two committees in the Senate. It has already passed out of both of those. It is ready to be heard on the Senate floor. It was supposed to be heard earlier this week, owing to some scheduling issues. It's been retained on the floor calendar and is likely to come up next week by all accounts. So the Senate, it just has the floor of the Senate. For those of you who have not been big dorks their whole life like me, the legislative process requires that the House have a bill that matches identically the Senate bill. And in fact, there was an issue last session where it got through all the committees in the Senate, got through all the committees in the House, but the two chambers' versions did not match. And then they ran out of time in session. So presently, the House bill has 3 committees to go through. It has not been heard by any of those 3 committees yet. As of yesterday afternoon, it has been scheduled for its first committee. That's the Regulatory Reform Committee. It will be heard by them tomorrow at 11:30. That committee has 19 bills on its calendar tomorrow, and it has allotted only 3 hours to get through those. As you've seen in the instance of Mayor Will and Mayor Kennedy who have gone up, sometimes the discussion on this issue alone can take a substantial amount of time, to say nothing of there's a human trafficking bill, there's bills of interest on the agenda for tomorrow. So it's not a foregone conclusion that it will get out of committee. That said, procedurally, a lot can happen between now and the end of session. Session ends Friday, March 8th. There's a few ways this could go. It could get out of that committee, and then it has to go through each of its other committees. It won't clear 2 committees in a week. There's only, I think, 3 weeks of committee meetings left. So it's going to have to move expeditiously to get through the House. That said, they could always do a committee reassignment and waive a committee, or do some kind of bill substitute on the floor of the House, and they have all their own procedural wranglings they can do to expedite things, but we're watching it closely. But before we talk about what it does, we should know where it is. So again, ready for the Senate floor, still going through committees in the House. As far as the theme, last year I came here and I believe I was quoted as saying that the bill is enhanced preemption under the guise of empowerment. And I think that's still true. History may not repeat itself, but it rhymes. This is fairly similar to what we saw last year in the proposed short-term rental bill. And so let's talk about, when I say enhanced preemption, what do I mean? Again, a history lesson, and for some of us who might be newer to this issue, in 2011, the legislature preempted all municipalities from regulating short-term rentals point blank, unless you had something in the books before 2011. In some communities, this has been referred to as keeping your grandfather clause, or keeping your grandfather, depending on the way it's said. Sometimes it conjures images of a lost relative, but the idea is you had to have something on the books before June 2011. Then in 2014, the legislature walked that back, and they said, wait a second, we're not going to preempt all of it. We will preempt you, local municipalities, from regulating the duration or frequency of short-term rentals. So you can't pass an ordinance today that says you can only rent in this zoning district for less than 30 days 5 times a year. You can't do that if you haven't had that on the books now for 13 years. And so it was no duration, no frequency, and no prohibition. No matter what some of your residents have said to you or repeated to you, you do not have the ability to stop the proliferation of short-term rentals, nor should you, quite honestly, in terms of the private sector. If you don't have the regulation on the books, when I say nor should you, I want to be clear what I'm saying is in some communities there's this penchant for monitoring, hey, that person sold their house to a short-term rental and they sold their house to a short-term rental. We're all selling our houses on the open market. And if it's a permitted use in your community, then that's its own issue. But getting to the point of the enhanced preemption, what does preemption look like now? If that was 2014, they haven't touched it since 2014. There's certainly been efforts to touch that preemption, and that's found in Florida Statute 509032 sub 7 sub B. What this does now is it makes an explicit provision preempting the regulation of advertising platforms. So you can't regulate Airbnb, VRBO. I wouldn't say that communities have gotten too far into regulating advertising platforms. That's not a huge loss. However, in as much as that could be interpreted as preventing you from regulating what is stated in an ad, That is a challenge. A lot of communities have policed issues such as occupancy through saying, if we have an occupancy limit of 15 occupants, you can't advertise that you are going to have 20 occupants, or that it can accommodate 20 but is limited to 15 or something like that. So it preempts to advertising platforms. It also appears to recharacterize the past preemption. This is a legislative priority of Senate President Pasadomo. She's been quoted as saying that communities were already preempted on regulating this issue. And that's true depending on how you choose to characterize it. Yes, we were already preempted on duration, frequency, and prohibition. But the idea that we were preempted altogether from regulating them is not true. There's been no court to hold that. What they're looking at is the language in 5090327A that says that the regulation of public lodging establishments is preempted to the state. But short-term transient rentals have not fallen squarely within that category when this issue has been litigated. And so it's sort of a false conclusion that we have already been preempted. We have not. And the courts have looked explicitly at the preemption language and said, this is not duration, this is not frequency, this is not prohibition, whatever you're doing is fine. And so this new proposed legislation has language in it in the current version, and I'm mostly talking about the Senate Bill 280 version in part because it's the one that's further along and more likely to be substituted in the House. In the current substituted version of Senate Bill 280, it appears to recharacterize that preemption in 7A because it says it creates a new section, Section 8, 509032, Section 8, and that's all about what you can do. And it starts out by saying, notwithstanding the preemption in 7A. I'm like, well, up until now, that hasn't had anything to do with what you're talking about from municipal perspective. So it's sort of a way to rebrand that preemption. It's like, even with what you've always been preempted on, we're going to give you this. So then let's talk about what is provided now, what you can do. Again, up until now, if it's not duration or if it's not frequency, if it's not prohibition, you can do it. Now it says that a municipality may require registration. And look, guys, we're making it so you guys can sign them up and know who's coming into your community and who's operating these. Well, we already have the ability to do that. We don't need new language to do that under the current statute. But they are making it explicit. Fine. You're making it explicit. But in doing so, it says you may only require one of 7 things. And the language is may only. So everything that's not one of those 7 things, we can't do anymore. And so one of them is, the first one is we can require the identification of the owner and operator in the registration process. So these are all the things that we can require in the registration process as local jurisdictions. The identification of the owner and operator. Their proof of their registration with the state, Department of Business, Professional Regulation, and Division of Revenue, I believe it is. We can require their tax registration number information. We can require that any updated information be provided to us as a condition of registration. If Mayor Queen owns the property today, but he sells to Mayor Rustek, then okay, you're going to be required to sign up again. We can require that. We can require a designated responsible party who must be available to respond 24 hours a day. That is, again, non-controversial. Most jurisdictions who have a regime in place already provide for that. The other thing that we can require is maximum occupancy based on the Florida Fire Prevention Code. I will tell you, and I'm presently litigating this on behalf of another jurisdiction, but maximum occupancy from the Florida Fire Prevention Code, while it provides some kind of objective measure that people are familiar with, is not really appropriate, I would contend. Because growing up where I grew up, there was a small little nightclub, I think it was called Orbitz. What Orbitz nightclub could do was go to the fire marshal, and the fire marshal say, you get 250 people in here, because that's how many warm bodies we can safely fit in here and evacuate. But those 250 people are there for a 2-hour concert, 4 hours at a nightclub for the night. That is not a sustained use. That doesn't contemplate people making trash, cooking, parking, and all those things. It's just how many people we can safely fit in a building, not how many people we can safely fit in this district, this street, and all those other things. So the Florida Fire Prevention Code calculus is not necessarily apropos for a resident or transient lodging use, is my position. but that is the maximum occupancy. So if you have 2 times 2 plus 2 or some kind of calculus like that, it goes away. And then the other one is that they must pay all liens, all recorded liens that the city has, code enforcement liens, in full. Those are the 7 things you can require. If it's not on that list, it goes away. So when I talk about preemption and this being empowerment, and really it's just another form of enhanced preemption, I say that because in the last 13 years that we have been preempted in full, and maybe cut it shorter to the last 10 years if you're going to go with the 2014 preemption, municipalities have adapted to the legislative landscape. Whether you're in Holmes Beach, or you're in Flagler County, or you're in Indian Harbor Beach, all over the state, communities have adapted. And the current form of this would preempt everything we've adapted to over the course of a decade. It's not narrowly tailored to say you can only do these things unless you've had a system in place before date X. It's whatever you're doing before 2011. Well, before 2011, you weren't registering people. Quite honestly, this form of the economy didn't exist, right? Airbnb itself mostly launched with the Democratic National Convention in 2008. It's a newer platform, and government moving behind tech, we've adapted, and now you're being told your adaptations are no good. And so there has been talk of an amendment that would preserve any programs that were in place adopted by ordinance on or before 2015. But again, most communities don't fall inside that window. I'm certainly not going to suggest a date certain that I think it would be better for. I would say it'd be better to let us to continue to adapt in this landscape without these added restrictions. I'll move a little more quickly out of respect for your time, but some of the other provisions in this, we have 15 days. Once a community establishes a registration process, we have 15 days to approve a registration upon application. If we don't do so within 15 days, it's deemed approved unless the parties agree to some kind of extension for that process. And if you're going to deny somebody's registration for some reason, you have to provide them written notice of the precise reason. Hey, you didn't provide me your tax registration number. It has to be one of those 7 things we talked about, so it's a pretty short list of what they did or didn't do. The one thing that is noticeably different is it does make some provision for a magistrate to be able to recommend suspension or revocation of a license. There are some communities that have done this in their ordinances already, and there are ongoing legal disputes on whether that is within the scope of Chapter 162, the Florida statute governing code enforcement, or not. I can say it's not explicitly prohibited, so I would say that we have the power to do it. Now it's saying, oh, we're going to help you, we're going to make it clear that you can do it. But the terms on which you can suspend and revoke are pretty strict. It's for suspension, it's 1 violation, at least 1 or more violations 5 times or more in a 30 or 60-day period. In a smaller community, one of the challenges with that is think about how many code enforcement personnel you have, how targeted they would have to be to get to that level, and then also somehow thread the needle to not be accused of targeting that property and disproportionate enforcement or something else. It's going to be an interesting balancing act to get to that threshold. Interestingly, it also provides for a potential revocation, and in that revocation process, it allows you to appeal as a property owner, which is great. We should provide for due process. One interesting thing that I'm not sure was thought through in the draft is it presently states that when you appeal, you have the ability to recover attorney's fees, costs, and damages. Well, I don't know how you have damages because at the trial level, we were just determining whether or not you should be revoked. And now it's on appeal. What evidence is there going to be of damages? And damages aren't really the result of an administrative appeal that way. So that's an interesting question that I believe is unanswered. And the last thing and there's a lot in this bill as it's regulating advertising platforms and telling the department, the division and the department what they have to do as part of this at the state level. But from the city level, there's this interesting language at the end that it says this subsection does not prohibit a local jurisdiction from adopting local ordinances if it is uniformly applied without respect to whether residential property is used as a vacation rental. And so it's this sort of weird catch-all, safety net preemption, arguably, that says, oh, and you guys can pass all the laws you want as long as it's not specific to short-term rentals. I think the intent in that language is to make it very clear it is this and only this and nothing else. if it is going to be directed to short-term rentals. So if you have noise ordinances, they can't differ. If you have trash ordinances, they can't differ. Parking ordinances, you can't differ, even though you're regulating an industry. I have been able to get past the legal fiction that these are not businesses in residential communities. Fine, it's a use of property, but it's the use of property as an industry, and we otherwise regulate industries. And so why not have reasonable restrictions around that try to, at best, harmonize what is left of our zoning structures? And I know that we had a little bit of this discussion when I was here last year. When you take the sum total of the home-based business ordinances, the short-term rental ordinances, and a series of others, you start to see the erosion of what we call in the law Euclidean zoning. Industry over here, homes over here, entertainment here. That's blurred substantially in this regime. So I think I've talked plenty, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have. There's a lot more to this legislative session. I was invited by Mayor Kennedy to speak to this particularly. So thank you very much.
Who's the sponsor of the bill?
The sponsor of the bill locally is it's Senator DeSigley.
Senator who?
Senator DeSigley is the sponsor of the bill.
Thank you.
And it is absolutely, at least publicly, being represented as a priority of leadership, most particularly Senator Pasadomo, the Senate President.
Any other questions for Randy today? On this
Yes.
side? Yes.
Or just to clarify, when you said they were giving provisions to revoke or suspend based on 5 separate violations.
That's just for suspension, and then
Right.
there's a separate threshold for revocation.
In 60 days. So can code enforcement board or magistrate get 5 convictions in 60 days?
Administratively, it's very, very difficult. It would be very difficult, if not altogether unlikely, based on notice provisions and the times you go. Now, again, on our side as city attorneys or advisors, we would have to argue whether, okay, all the violations were in 60 days. We got them adjudicated in 90, but all 5 of those violations happened in 60 days. I think that argument could be made. But again, the challenge you get down to there is resources. And again, not being accused of targeting, retaliation, or any of the other number of equal protection claims that are going to come when somebody gets 5 violations in 30 days.
But my point is that this may sound good because we can go after people who are causing problems, but say you actually initiated that, could you get to completion?
I think there is a way
that
to get
60
there. I
day
think
fine,
it may be prohibitive and difficult, if not altogether.
And you also, they can appeal. So that-
Yes, and which again, I totally support appeals. I believe in the due process.
I just wanted to get that
Yeah.
clarity out. And also in the ability to distinguish, well, you said the last part of that ordinance says if there's uniformly applied. In 2014, that was the key to that legislation. That gave the towns the ability, because they are different. These are, like you say, these are businesses in residential communities. So that was the balance, to be able to allow them in these communities, but to regulate them differently than regular houses because they are different. We lose that now.
Right, and you lose other things. You lose the ability to inspect for those communities that are conducting inspections. You lose the ability to make required postings. For some communities have that, whether it's the designated responsible party posting or otherwise. There's, different communities have different needs. That is the cornerstone of home rule and the cornerstone of our Constitution as it was constructed in 1968. And not allowing the American experiment that is, let's allow each community to have its own charm, its own rules, its own community and vibe, as it was stated earlier, is lost in this.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for clarifying the facts and where we are now.
Yep, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I do. One question. If you don't have a registration process right now, you have nothing in place, can you do that, or do you have to have a business tax process in place before you can do a registration process?
I think the business tax receipt process is separate and distinct from whether you're going to have like a specific vacation rental registration process. And again, if you already have some, I want to be very clear, if you have something on the books from 2011, you need not do anything different. And also, as far as this preemption goes, if you have something but you want to make it less restrictive, you can do that too. This memorializes your ability to create a registration system after 2024 if this does pass and get signed. But in doing so, it makes it very specific what you can and can't do. Right now, we have the ability to craft our own registration processes that reflect the priorities of our individual communities. right, regardless of the BTR.
Anyone else? Randy, thank you so much for coming on such short notice.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you so much.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Mayor.
One last thing on this. I'm finishing up my degree in public policy in May, and I have to do a capstone project, and I'm doing it on the pros and cons of short-term rentals. And I'm going to be sending each of you a survey that's part of my project. It has 7 questions. 6 of them are just either true or false, or I give you like 4 choices. And then the last question, you can answer your thoughts on short-term rentals. And I would really appreciate it if you would fill it out for me to help me with my survey and my project for this semester. So I'm just going to, you're going to see it, and I would appreciate if you did that. Thank you. Yes. Any other old business?
Okay, yeah. A couple of months ago, I guess, the Big C sent a letter to the county requesting that some enhancements be provided on Park Boulevard as you enter onto the Park Boulevard Bridge. Oh, okay, sorry. I would have talked louder. Anyway, after a rather lengthy discussion with the county administrator, I couldn't get anywhere. It seems to me that that's almost an iconic roadway with those wide medians, that we do a better job. I think we do everything we can to enhance the beach experience, and that's one of them. It's kind of a minor issue in some respects, but I'm at a loss right now as to how to get the county. I don't think it's going to cost a whole lot of money, but they're digging their heels in on this, and I don't know where else to go.
Well, I
Any
support
thoughts?
you. Yeah, I support, of course, Pat, in this, and we all know county commissioners. Reach out to them and let them know how we feel.
So should we send a separate Big C letter to every county commissioner?
Sure, as a
Rather
group.
than,
I'm
rather
fine with that, of
than,
course.
Pat, why
can we
don't
agree
you
on that?
write a letter, and then we'll send it to, we'll get it to us, Lauren, and then we'll send it out to
Okay.
all of us. Does that sound okay with you?
Yeah, we've already got the letter written. It was
Okay.
already sent, so we can recraft it and send it out to each of the commissioners. I think that's the way to go. I'm going to have one more conversation with Kelly, and before we send it out. But if we all agree that would be the next step, I think that's where we need to go. For those of you that go down Park Boulevard, it should be one of the most attractive entrances to the beaches, and it is not. That's the easiest way to say that. Anyway, okay.
Thank
Do
you.
we need a vote on that, or?
I have
Consensus?
a comment.
Yes.
So was it that Kelly was portraying from the county administrator that if we, the community here on the beaches, wanted a higher level of service, we could discuss a partnership with the county providing funding to the existing level, and then the difference to achieve a higher level of service would be covered by us? Am I understanding that correctly?
The capital side of it, they were requesting that the beach towns provide funding on the capital, the actual construction of the median.
Okay.
And they would continue, they would then maintain it. Well, frankly, they don't do a good job of maintaining what's there already, so I don't think that's feasible. I think it's part of, I don't want to get into it. I mean, the beaches are the cash cow for the county.
Oh, no doubt.
And there's no reason why you wouldn't spend just a tiny fraction of the budget to enhance that beach experience. It's just mind-boggling to me. I mean, it's a kind of a minor thing in terms of what we do every day, but it's just silly that they're spending all the money repaving it and not going to add $50,000 for a median or.
Yeah, I understand your point. Thank you.
I think that it would be, I had a conversation about, when Pat told me about it, with the county administrator, and I think it would be a good idea for each of the county commissioners to know, how we feel about this. And exactly what you said was what he said to me when we spoke. So I think it's a good idea to send it to the county commissioners and let them talk to him too, okay?
Well, and Mayor Queen's been, I don't want to single him out, but he's been here the longest of all of us, and so he's got a longer history on this issue.
The only thing I can tell you is the county gave us $70 million to improve Gulf Boulevard, so it's a drop in the bucket to add a little bit more to work on what you're talking about.
So
Yeah,
we just need to
exactly.
talk to them and see.
Okay. Thank you.
Any discussion items to come before the board today? Hearing none, we'll do legislative updates. Beach Watch 2024, week 1 and 2, we have an update letter. I sent you the letter that we sent from the City of Indian Rocks Beach to Senator Hudson. That was one of the committees for the short-term rentals. That's in your packet. And then the piece from Representative Cross that went to the federal government about the sand, that's in your packet. And we'll start with city events, and Mayor Queen.
Everything's pretty quiet in North Reading Beach. Thank you.
Quiet in Reddington Shores too, but I'm a little excited about Helen's presentation, and I don't know, maybe in April or May, we might see Bay Boat Flicks in our nature park. Who knows?
Nice.
Great.
We have a tribute to the late great Jimmy Buffett this coming, not this week, next week, the 9th, at the city park. And then I'm putting Treasure Island Madeira on notice. We're preparing for the boat parade in February, so we're not going to be left behind this year.
I think that this is probably from Madeira Beach as well as Treasure Island. But the Gulf Beaches Rotary Club is going to be doing a carnival here in Rock Park, and that is from the 14th to the 17th, and brings in thousands of people and a lot of contributions so that the Rotary Club can redistribute those to all of the not-for-profits.
Madeira Beach, the only thing we have going on is we have the Trash Pirates cleanup this Saturday. Come out and join us. We'd appreciate that. And we had a very successful seafood festival down at John's Pass a couple weeks ago. Thank you.
All right, on Saturday, February 17th, Reddington Beach is going to host its annual Mardi Gras golf cart parade and gumbo cook-off. So this has been a huge hit in town, so decorate your golf carts and bring your crock pots full of gumbo.
Wow. In Indian Rocks Beach on February 10th, we will have the Mayor's Women's Tea. We have it every year, and so anyone can come. Yeah, you don't have to live in Indian Rocks Beach. It's a great event. We usually have about 240 people. It's packed. And then on February 17th, we have the Winterfest at the Calvary Episcopal Church, and that begins at 10 a.m.
Yeah, we are in the final planning stages of our iconic St. Patrick's Day Festival. I have more information on that at our next meeting. And we do have a Sunday morning market in front of Town Hall every Sunday. It's a great little event. I invite all of you to attend. That's it.
All quiet in Bel Air Beach.
In Clearwater, we have at the Sound, our outdoor amphitheater, we have Willie Nelson on February 10th. We have our Sea Blues Festival that'll be at Coachman Park on February 23rd and through the 25th. We have sunrise and sunset yoga at that Coachman Park as well. Plays in the park. We're really activating it fully. We've got a community advisory group that's starting to form to advise how to use the green space on our Coachman Park. The Market Marie is going to be down there. They come the second Tuesday of every month. There are over 100 vendors at Coachman Park, and it's really lovely. It's right next to the splash pad and the children's playground, and we have lots of parking for that. Air Supply is coming in March. Alabama is coming in April. And Melissa Etheridge and Jewel are set for September 26th. So those are some of the highlights, but there are certainly other concerts sprinkled along the way.
Thank you. With that, we will send a letter for the March meeting for all of our Pinellas County delegation to come. And then I'll personally call all of them too, so that we can get an update on their thoughts on the session. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I want to thank everybody for coming today for our transition into our new leadership. I appreciate all of you very much. Thank you.